Okay, well, I don't see anyone else waiting, doesn't look like. So Patty, we have a quorum, so if you're ready, we can get started anytime.
Okay, I guess I'm ready. And you'll have to forgive me if I ask stupid questions, but that's okay. So it's my responsibility to call the roll to see who's here. Is that correct? As the chairperson, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, Leon
Patty,
Locke. I'm
Here.
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you want Brenda to go ahead and do that, because she's taking minutes, so she can actually call the
Okay.
roll.
Okay, hit it, Brenda.
Leon Locke,
Here.
Lee Booker,
Here.
Mayor Evans, and Brian Thompson,
Here.
and Patty Kaywood.
Here. Has everybody, I'm assuming, received the minutes that Brenda sent out a couple of days ago in the last meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you've had a chance to look at them, I'm assuming that too, then do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes for last month's meeting.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay,
Lee Booker.
minutes are approved from last meeting. And do we have any reports
We
of
have,
officers, committees, or staff?
we've updated the zoning ordinance and the zoning map from the amendments from last week. So those are updated and official. And I think you all should have gotten them earlier this week because I sent it out to everybody with the updated versions. But that's all I have unless Chad has anything.
You're talking about the zoning book, the big fat notebook. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the zoning ordinance and the zoning map.
Okay. And I'm assuming that replaces what I had that Brenda gave me late last summer, the binder. So this replaces that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's all for that item, then it looks like our old business, we have listed Mr. Faust. Is he on the phone?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Hello, Mike. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. We met with you, a couple of us, Woody and Stephanie. I know that's not how you pronounce your name. How do you pronounce your name? I said
Stephanie.
Stephanie, but that's not.
Stephanie.
Okay. Stephanie and Woody and myself met Mr. Faust at his building in town a couple weeks ago. And somebody help me out what we're talking about with him?
Well, what we're talking
today,
about was
did we have it for him, or does he have information for us?
Well, I think I gave you, we talked about it at the building. I think I gave you all the information. Part of it that you all understood was incorrect. You thought it was going to be for a temporary living quarters upstairs. That's not the case. We talked about it. It was downstairs.
Yes, that's correct.
That's all. That's the only thing I have that I want is just a variance allowing, that temporary on-site living quarters downstairs.
Okay. Do any of you that were not present at that meeting, that informal meeting with Mr. Faust, do you have any questions or comments for him?
Yes.
Lee okay.
We're talking about the old bank building.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. In reading the notes, it says we're looking at it as being a restaurant or a boutique in that building?
Well, I've had 2 or 3 different look at it, but the two different ones wanted to be able to have an on-site apartment should the weather get bad or whatever. The main one that wanted that was the urgent care clinic. But I've had more than one interested in the building that wanted to know if that was possible. And it seems everybody thought it was to be upstairs, and that's not the case. I explained to the others that met with me at the building, they just want to take one of those offices and make a living quarters to use if they have to use it.
And I believe Woody mentioned that night that when you talk about the variance, just to allow for, not a permanent apartment, but just an emergency situation. And I believe he indicated that he didn't think there would be a problem getting that variance.
Yeah, that's what he told me.
Okay.
Yeah, my line of thinking is if it's just for a temporary, like occasionally, that would be okay. I don't think it needs to be on a day-to-day basis.
Well, I'm not asking for a day-to-day basis. It's just they just need something, a variance in writing. These people do, saying that it's okay if they put a temporary residence in there to use occasionally.
Okay, and help me again because I'm still learning. Whose responsibility is it then to grant or prepare that variance or put something in writing? Whose responsibility is that?
The board will have to vote on it to give him that variance. The planning commission board.
Mm-hmm.
So Stephanie, do you want it to be an official variance or approval from the planning commission, or would it suffice for the city to say that there's no issue with it being used temporarily, provided it's not rented or used as a permanent residence?
As
Okay.
long as we've got a paper trail of some sort, I mean, I don't think it really matters as long as we have something in writing that we can refer back to in case we need it. So whether that be,
Yeah, I don't need anything from a specific board, just something saying that I've gone before you all and you don't have any trouble with if they have to stay there once a week or once a month or whatever, that they have the right to do so.
I was thinking
Okay.
from a standpoint of not getting into setting a precedent that could cause us, an issue down the road with any other businesses, that maybe if the city were to submit a letter to him stating that it's fine to use as a temporary residence on occasions, provided it's just not used as a permanent residence or rented out, then, what's to keep somebody from staying in if it's bad weather in any of their businesses downtown. So I think something like that would suffice, but clearly specify in the letter that it can't be used, is anything else than that other than temporarily.
And that's fine with me. That's exactly what I want.
Okay, so do we as the board tonight then have to vote to give him that document that he's looking for?
Well, I think it'd just be a consensus of this board that you're okay with it, because I kind of hate to
Okay.
take a legal action, because to grant a variance means that you're giving an approval to a use that's not otherwise permitted in your zoning ordinance. And that's something we can't do either as a planning commission or a board of zoning appeals. So I thought it might be better if it just came from the city stating that there's not an issue unless it crosses over into being a violation of that zoning code.
Okay.
And that's okay with me.
Okay, so do we have a consensus among all of us on the phone this evening that that's okay to provide Mr. Faust with this document, this letter?
I would like to know one question. I have one question. What is the definition of temporary?
Well, not a permanent residence. I mean, there wouldn't be somebody there every day, or maybe probably not even once a week. I mean, it's just like use when they have to. I mean, if they have to stay there one night, that's okay. If 2 nights, but it's not a permanent thing of any kind.
Okay,
I don't
so
know how to answer you any further.
2 nights per month or 2 nights per week?
Well, no, I wouldn't say 2 nights per week. I would say probably rarely ever, but maybe 1 night a month, 2 nights a month, maybe no nights a month. But they just need to know that the city is not going to come in there if they stay overnight one night and, start running them out and raising Cain over them staying a night. Because
Okay,
it is commercial property.
Okay, so okay.
So does it sound like everybody's okay with this now?
Yeah,
Do
why
you
don't-
want to just take a roll call vote or have a motion to take a roll call vote? And like I said,
Okay.
it's not a variance we're approving. It's just a consensus of the city allowing him to say it's for temporary uses.
Brenda, are you doing another roll call to see if we're okay with it?
If that's what you would like.
Okay, please.
That I need a motion first and a second.
Oh, okay, sorry. Who would like to make a motion that we do this roll call to see if it's okay to grant this letter to Mr. Faust? Make a motion that we take this roll call and that we approve this.
I have one question. Now, as a planning committee, are we making this decision or is the town of Spring City making it? Or are they gonna base it off of what we vote on here?
So it's really coming from the planning commission as a form of a recommendation to the city. So it'd be your town manager authorizing this letter to be written.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion. We proceed forward with giving them permission to send, give them a letter of approval for them to stay if necessary, once to every now and ever so often, not on a regular basis.
I second the motion.
Second,
Is everyone in favor? Say aye.
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 All right, Stephanie, could you put us a letter together to allow for temporary overnight stay on
Yes.
occasion? And
Yes,
we'll get that to Mr. Faust.
yes, no problem.
If you want to you all have my phone number. If you want to just give me a call when you have it ready, I can drop by City Hall and pick it up.
That'll be fine. We'll give you a call and let you know when it's ready.
Okay, so we're done and I can count on getting this letter. Right. Okay.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Do you need me any further on this
We have a
conversation?
consensus that the letter is okay.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for me before I go?
Thank you for joining us.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, next under old business, we have the development off of New Lake Road that we've talked about before. We need some further discussion of the proposed multifamily units, townhomes versus condos. This discussion. Or none of these people are on the phone with us.
Yes, we have both the developer. We have some citizens online. We have Mark Matlock online. with us.
Oh, okay.
This is Mark Matlock. I believe Jay Lewis is online as well, our engineer.
Mark, this is Woody Evans. What size are these townhouses gonna be? Have you got that determined yet as far as square footage?
No, sir, Mr. Evans. We have not. The townhouses, typically what we've done in the past would be somewhere, and again, depends upon if it's a 1, 2, or 3 bedroom, but somewhere in the 800 to 1,200 square foot range.
And will you have
Mr.
parking for like 2 cars for each one of these? Is that the
Yes, sir.
game?
I'm pulling up. Yes, sir. Let me pull up the plan right now.
Okay.
My connection
On
is not
this.
very good or something. I'm not hearing everything.
I'm sorry. Is that better?
Yes,
Hello?
and I don't know whether it's you or whether it's my internet connection or what. I'm just not hearing
Yes,
everything.
Yeah,
yes,
you're,
Miss Kaywood. I'm actually dialed in. I'm not on the Zoom. I'm in a different location, but again, I am dialed in. So hopefully it's not my phone connection. I'm hearing everybody okay.
Okay, well, I'm hearing you now. I hear you well now. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm leaning right over my phone, so I'm just a few inches away from my phone. So I'll try to do a better job. But if you look at the plan where we have kind of specified again for the multi-family units and so forth, there is again the units as they're staggered, and we've not come with a specific design of how many 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom. But on this particular site, if you look at the road and the layout, there is plenty of area for double rows of parking and so forth to accommodate these residences there. So, Mr. Evans, to answer your question, yes, there would be at least 2, and there's probably enough room that you can't have 3, but there could be some additional sprinklings if you go, through this whole area for additional parking as well. But one of the things that Nick has certainly made me aware of, we want to make sure that we don't overstack these, keep the density very reasonable, because he's very conscious about having enough green space and buffering space around all of this. He wants this to be, again, lean toward more of an upper scale area, not at the very top. It's not a gated community, but we want to take into account the greenery and the location of all of this being on New Lake Road.
when are you gonna be able to get us a concept drawing that actually shows the details of these townhouses?
Well, we have been focusing on the single family. At this point in time, we're working on about 4 to 6 different plans on the single family, and we have not focused in. So I would think, and Nick is online with us as well, I think it would be, probably 30 to 45 days before we would have some kind of a sketch of the multifamily units.
Yeah, I'm sure as you understand, some of these decisions are rather challenging to make if you don't have enough information. And the only way we're going to have that is have some drawings.
Yes, sir. I do understand that. Are you asking for like floor plan?
Yes.
So you can see how floor
We would
plans.
Like floor plans, are they going to be 2 stories? Is that the kind of the game plan?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay.
This is Nick, just to kind of add into it and kind of give a little insight on what we're thinking. Highway 30 runs into 27 right there in Dayton. They just built those, and this ain't gonna be exactly what, but this is kind of the thought behind it. How they're kind of stacked up, and they've got a garage in the bottom, and then they've got kind of a upper and a lower. It's almost set up for the bass for the fishing tournament, where the garage and everything. So that's going to kind of be the idea that we base it around. And then that way it's going to have full garage parking on the outside. And then we're going to kind of stack them up that direction. So if you want something to kind of wrap your mind around it, it's you're right there at the corner of 30 and 27. That's pretty much what you'll be seeing there. We'll probably add some more stone. We'll probably spruce them up just a little bit more.
Okay, so with the garage underneath it, are we gonna be approaching like 1,800 feet, square feet?
Yeah, we've got, our max will probably be around 1,600-ish. I'd say we'll be 1,100 to 1,600-ish, I would say. Like Mark said, we're kind of back and forth on those. I just saw some this week right there on Bryan Hill, where they had them in triplexes and they actually condoed them out and sold them. And of course, they've done the same thing just right down the road on New Lake. And I think those are a very similar kind of success story there. That kind of look the same, townhome, stone, not jammed in like a college town, but spread out where people can still be in a livable forest. That's kind of the whole idea. But that's kind of the look we're going for. They're going to be a little bit on the larger side. There could be some on the smaller side, like Mark said. But yeah, Mark and I we'll tighten that up here in the next couple of weeks and get something out for you guys to look at.
Yeah, one of the ways that we would like to control that is to have a minimum square footage. And that's the reason we'd like to see some kind of concept drawing.
Sure. Yeah, it's no problem at all.
And Nick, are you still planning these as condos to sell off just the unit and no property with it?
That's I thought we had figured that out until we had looked at an apartment type rental, but people they don't really want to see apartments in their developments, and so now especially the way I just saw the ones on Mulberry and on Bryan Hill sell. I mean they love them there. I think that's the direction we're going to lean to is a condoed out buried units. And I think if Spring City pushes the bass tournaments and the professional tournaments the way that Dayton is, I think those will be just as big of a hit in Spring City as they are in Dayton.
I have a question, Chad. You may be able to help me with this. I believe since last time we looked at this map you've got pulled up now, you've added these amendments where it says additional setback 25 feet. So on top of their 10-foot buffer zone, you're looking at 35 feet. That's something that, it could affect their plan sizes for these homes. If they were originally calculating a 10-foot buffer zone, it's going to be 35 feet, if that's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, so since these areas are next to the residential zone, they have to have that extra 10 feet and the setback increases to the 25. And that's something I think I emailed to Mark after a meeting last month because we discussed that. So I haven't received any updated plans or anything, but yeah, it looks like it might be an issue just for like this one, for instance, because you kind of see how this one lines up to the edge.
I have one little question on what you're talking about right now. These will never become rentals. The city can prevent these from becoming rentals, correct?
No, ma'am, there's nothing that would prevent them from being used as rental units.
That's not a good thing. Can the city prevent that? I mean, rentals deteriorate quicker.
Well, there's nothing in the ordinance that says whether you can rent properties in the community. You could rent a single family home, you could rent an apartment, a condo, a townhome. There's nothing that prevents anyone from renting it. And they do not have a short-term rental ordinance in place either. But even with a short-term rental ordinance, there's only certain provisions that they can govern with that. And it's mainly about collecting the taxes off of it with that ordinance. So it doesn't give much provision as to what can and can't be done on the property. And according to the ordinance, this just permits multifamily in this particular zoning district. It doesn't say what form that has to be in, whether it's a permanent single family residentially owned property or rental apartments.
Okay, so can something be done about that, or is that just something the state can't do anything if the city wanted to?
That's not something that's typically done, but communities don't typically determine whether they do or do not rent properties.
Okay,
So we can determine the type of housing that goes in, but not how it, necessarily how it's used, other than whether it's single family or multifamily.
okay. That's not a good, that's been the first negative I've heard about this so far. Okay, I mean, that would be the only reason I wouldn't want, I mean, townhouses would probably be rented quicker than a single dwelling house would be when I'm looking at this map here. But okay, that answers my question. I don't know what I can do to, whoever does the selling of these, look for people who want to actually live there. That's all I had to say on that. And of course, well, yeah, okay.
Macy, I was just curious, are you a resident that adjoins this property?
Yes. Lynch. That's the Lynch over there to the left
okay.
side. In fact, those apartments would actually, and that's my other concern that I addressed. And I went back and read, I think that what was sent to me about the stormwater, and I, don't want any of the stormwater to come on my property, just because it creates erosion. And that's quite a hillside that my property and that adjacent property are, come into a gully there, and that gully is totally on my property, plus about I'm going to tell you 15 feet from my property line. And as I have a fence built about 5, probably a good 5 foot, no more, not up to 10 from that little gully that happens every time it rains. But then we also own another 10 foot on the other side of the fence we have built. So, I know that you got a greenway plan there, but I just hope you have a really good plan to take stormwater from these apartments, because so much comes off those roofs and stuff and comes down the hill that does not come onto the property.
Mark, Nick, or Jay, is that something you could address? I know we have talked about that some in our previous meetings about the stormwater runoff and the plans for a detention pond area.
Yes, Chad. As we also too discussed at last Thursday's meeting with the council, the township, we've obviously working on and working through this design process. And as we said in that meeting, we certainly understand that we have to address any and all stormwater issues and contain that on our site. And then that will go into a detention pond or detention pond area. And Chad, as we discussed last week, that is currently that detention pond area is being designed down just as you come in off of the New Lake Road area. Okay, so once you come in off of New Lake Road, we are designing that detention area in that section. I'm sitting here looking at one of the preliminary plans. So all of the water coming off.
Okay, my question was, how's the water from these apartments get all the way down there to that retention pond?
Well, terminology that we would be using would be areas where it would allow what we call sheet flow, and sheet flow would be like coming from a parking lot,
right? And
that would be putting into a collection pipe, you see again in different areas where it could be like a grate and a drain and so forth, and then you would have an underground pipe to carry that down to your
Okay.
detention pond area. So,
Okay, good.
but we would have to. I'm sorry, ma'am, but we would have to carry that again from again the very top where you're talking about. Keep that water contained on our site so it does not bleed over to you to cause any kind of issue, and then take that down to our detention pond area that's kind of back in behind that office that's there on New Lake Road. That's where the detention pond is being proposed.
Yeah, I was told that. I was just wondering how it was going to get there, because you were talking about that sheet flow, and I already have that issue from Hillcrest Drive. You know, that water, when it rains hard, comes down that road and then goes into this gully area I'm telling you about. And we just don't need any more of that. I mean, that already creates some erosion, but you know, you
Yes,
add to
ma'am.
it. Yeah. So that's just, I want to make sure that that stuff doesn't come this way, you know, to create a
Yes,
bigger
ma'am.
problem. Okay. So you do
That is-
have a plan for okay. Yeah. When I sat there and saw where the pond was going to be, I said, well, how's it going to get there? You know, for right now, there's that little creek bed or whatever goes there by the water plant, but that's coming off our property. And then to where this is. So, okay. As long
Yes,
as you
ma'am.
have a plan
Yes,
to
ma'am.
keep that from, you know, going to dust,
Yes,
we're
ma'am.
good with that.
Yes, ma'am. We have to actually, have engineering calculations that will show we are mandated again by local communities and the state of Tennessee and the stormwater regulations. We cannot increase the stormwater runoff that exists now on that site. Of course, that site is, as you well know, is wooded and
Yes.
vegetative, and so we have to. So if there's some little bit of water runoff that exists now, we cannot increase that flow and just dump that onto your site or anybody else's site. We have to figure what that pre-construction runoff is, whatever that is. Then we cannot increase that as we move forward. And the Planning Commission will be looking at that along with Chad Reese as we move through this situation. And also, too, we will be submitting that to the town's engineering firm, which I believe is Barge, if I remember right. And they will have to verify that.
Okay.
Is that right, Chad?
I believe that's correct. I couldn't tell you if it's the correct engineering firm. Stephanie or Brenda would be able to tell you that.
Okay.
Okay.
Just one more thing for Miss Lynch, and I call her Miss Lynch because she was my elementary school teacher.
Yeah.
Um,
Somebody asked me the
well,
other day,
Nick-
"Do I remember you?" And I'm going, I gave your background because I understand how you got involved in this type of career. And I'm, you know, very pleased.
right, yeah, 100%. Yeah, my grandpa was a surveyor there, in
And
Athens.
you invited him to our class several times, or a couple times anyway. Yeah, but anyway, go ahead.
This drawing that we're looking at, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but Mark and I have been working with the last couple of weeks, and I know people are, in the community or on the, planning commission are thinking about the townhomes and the condos quite a bit. But when you see our next revision come out, you're going to see that area that's going to neighbor your property is going to go from, and we don't have it all set out, and I don't want to, talk ahead of myself, but
That's okay.
we're going to reduce the amount of apartments and townhomes we have, basically. This is going to go, we're going to gear this more towards single family residential. I don't have numbers, to give you, but when you see the final revision, I think you're going to be like, oh, well, that's, again, no big deal. It's just going to be another house in my, close to my backyard. So, just because and the reason that we are kind of leaning in that direction is just because we feel like that's where the greater need is for the community. I think, apartments and townhomes and condos, I think they all serve their own purposes. But I think that single family residential, could also do just as well there. So
Right.
we've heard.
Well, I mean, I don't really have problems with that. I see where people are looking for places to rent all the time, and that kind of concerns me just because of in and out, in and out, in and out. And it's just, permanent homes, I'm not against people.
No, I think that yeah, once we can, once we tighten it up and final it up, I think everybody will be pleasantly pretty pleased with it, the way we kind of finish it up.
So I'm going to ask you this. Did you come visit the property yesterday?
No, I haven't been there since we came in right before Christmas to see my nana and aunt and everybody, but I haven't seen it.
Somebody did, but they came through to look at that property from Hillcrest. But now y'all have assured me that there's not going to be any access to this subdivision, property area, whatever, from Hillcrest, correct?
100%. Yeah, we will not access the subdivision whatsoever through Hillcrest. Like you said, it's the road can't handle it. It's that's not the for us. It's not even the best path. I mean, right there off 20. Like you said, if you're looking at the map now, lot 31 will go kind of up to lot 30 at the very kind of southeast portion. That's going to be detention pond area. Our best bet's to come in right there. It wouldn't make much sense for us to come in from the north side. So 100% not coming in from north.
Well, I had somebody who didn't attend the last meeting tell me, oh, I heard they're going to come through Hillcrest. I'm going, that's not what I heard. And then when I saw somebody at that property yesterday, I was kind of curious.
No, they were nobody that represented the developer or the landowner if they were
well,
on.
Neither the red truck or the white Vanish truck did not have any decals on them. I am a nosy neighbor.
Well, I don't mind that. I like to know what's going on out there, especially me being in Texas. So it's not bad. There shouldn't be anybody out there at this point unless, I mean, Mark and I just talked earlier. So we've already had it surveyed. I mean, we've, no.
That's interesting because one of them had on like a reflective jacket on. Interesting.
No, they didn't represent us.
Hey, they may have been hunting those 11 deer that live on that hill. So that's who you're really displacing. It's the deer.
Yeah. Right.
Mrs. There was no one from our firm or from our engineering firm that was on site yesterday. So not sure who that was, but anyway, was nobody, again, as Nick is saying, that had any kind of involvement with this project thus far.
Okay.
We don't know who they were.
Me neither. I didn't go ask.
It may have been a city worker. I know they were looking for some stuff on top of the hill next to the water plants. That could have been one of our guys.
With them wearing a reflective jacket, the only thing of it is none of the vehicles had, any insignia on them, city or anything. But and that's kind of unusual. But
Miss Lynch,
yes,
one of them was a white 4-wheel drive, brand new Chevrolet truck, correct? 4-door.
The white vehicle, I don't know that it was a truck. There was a red truck that was really pretty, but it could have been a white one. Yes.
There should have been a white truck there.
Well, there were 2 vehicles there.
Okay.
They weren't on my property, so I didn't go ask. They did walk along my fence line because I keep it cleaned up and that's the only way you really could get through there. But it was just reaffirming. I mean, y'all may have to use that with construction or going in there at first to survey or whatever. I understand that is a good avenue of going in there. I just want to make sure that traffic's not going to develop because of it, though. Why, do you know who it was, Leon?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it somebody hunting? No, don't answer
No,
that
ma'am.
because it's in city limits.
They
It's
wasn't
what?
hunting. They wasn't hunting. They were taking pictures.
Oh,
But 100%, just to kind of finish that up, no, 100%, we're not
Okay.
North Hillcrest. We don't even plan to have a construction access. I'm not saying that right now the plan's not to have a construction access. If we had to just get up in that northwest quadrant, I would say maybe, but no, it won't be. It won't be.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you answering my questions.
No, no problem at all.
Yes.
Leon,
You're
do I
welcome
need to
very
know
much.
why they're taking pictures?
Ma'am,
Do I need to know why they're taking pictures?
it was a survey thing going on.
Okay. Okay. I mean, surely if you're taking pictures of me, my property, whatever, you would ask permission. So I'm not too concerned.
One of the guys was from Nashville. That's all that was explained to me when I got a phone call and they asked me about the Spring City area, and I told them they had questions about the new development going in, and he was from Nashville. He supposedly left some cards down at the office. I don't know where he did or not. He was given my number to contact me because they knew I lived in Spring City.
Okay.
And he'd somehow or another had heard about the new development, and they were taking pictures and stuff. So I guess when it's clear weather, if you see a helicopter flying around making several passes,
yeah,
they'll be doing aerial photographs anyway.
Okay. It's not that we're not used to helicopters flying over. But that's good to know. It's good to know to have my heads up. Okay.
Does anyone have any other questions about the proposed concept plan or layout, or questions for Nick or Mark or Jay?
I'd just like for them to, like I say, get us a hard copy of the drawing and the detail of the townhouses, and then we can move on.
Yes, no problem at all. As far as the Chad, you may already, I think Mark brought this just a little earlier. You know, he's moving along, water, sewer, engineering. He's going to get to a certain point where he's going to have to get in and kind of see how that's all going to tie in. How do we go about that next step? Is that something that you'll contact the city's engineers with, which I understand is Barge, maybe you said earlier?
So once you have a set of plans ready for us, that we can actually start looking at your utility layout, your drainage, get a better idea of what you're looking at as far as how many condo units you're going to put on each property, the parking, a little bit more detailed plans than we have now. Once we have that, we can, meet with the town officials and their engineer to look at those and let them start looking at that point. So I don't think they want to submit anything to them yet to get them on board until we actually have a set of plans in hand.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, no problem at all.
So just as soon as you have those ready, send them over to us, and then we'll start sharing them around with the city departments, and then we'll let Stefan and the mayor reach out to their engineer and proceed how they see fit in that area.
Right. Okay. Yeah, like Mark said earlier, we've been heavily working on. Matter of fact, we have a couple different architects working on different house plans that actually should be complete tomorrow. That's on the residential side of things. So what we'll do is set up another set, for the townhome condominium area. That way y'all can take a look, kind of, wrap your heads around it and make sure that, it's, what you envision. And then, and we should be moving. Next, like Mark said, next 30, 40 days, we should have this thing knocked out.
I don't know, we mentioned this in previous meetings, but I was looking through their ordinance again today. You did see that sidewalks were required in front of the multifamily, didn't
you? We have not gotten that much in detail, Chad, as far as drilling down on all the specifics. I don't think that would be an issue. And matter of fact, certainly would be very welcome, because we can, see a lot of people, having, I won't call it, the infrastructure system here, and with the greenery that, there's a lot of good walking space and a lot of cardiac work that can be done, like I say, as you kind of walk around this whole area. So I think that would be a good feature to have. Absolutely. But we haven't gotten that far yet into our design package yet.
Well, I just wanted to throw it out there because now that you're getting down to getting some more final plans, I know we had not discussed that before.
I want to emphasize my sky glow lights on the streets.
Right.
Okay.
Mrs. Lynch, I think what would happen in this, and I'll kind of heed to Nick, but I'll kind of go ahead and throw it out there because we've not even drilled down to this. most of the time, like I say, where you've got your single family residential, what you would have, I'm going to call it like a little post lamp. You may have one at your house. I know that I've got one at my house. You know, when you come into your driveway, to identify your driveway and possibly your mailbox is just a little post lamp, and you see them like at Home Depot or
I
Lowe's
have
like
seen
this.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, which is not a very bright light at all. Certainly in the multifamily area, you have to have a little bit more, but we're not looking to have anything here that's very bright as you would like in a Home Depot or a Walmart or anything like that. Again,
Yeah.
Nick is looking again for an architectural feature. Certainly his wife, being very good in the interior design arena, she's having a lot of input. So Nick and his wife are, they really have a definite idea of the aesthetic quality here and what they're looking for.
Okay. No, I have an obnoxious street light outside, and we've done everything we can to block it. But we understand the police need to have lights too. I mean, we do understand that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, I just thought I'd throw that in since y'all were talking, sidewalks. I'll go away.
Yes, ma'am. No, all of that's good. Absolutely.
Does anybody have any more questions for them?
Patty, I guess it's back over to you if there's nothing else.
What did you last say, Chad? What did you say? I'm missing some. I'm not hearing everything. I
Oh,
think.
I said it's back over to you. It doesn't sound like we have any other
Oh.
questions or comments on it.
Oh, okay. So we don't have any other comments for these gentlemen. Or if you're still on the line, we thank you for your time, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from you again.
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, this is Mark. Chad, let me ask just a quick question. Obviously, last week, we passed, I guess, on the final reading, I guess for the zoning, and also too, again, the amendment to the zoning. All of that was worked out as we've actually got through. We are continuing to work on our layout, the grading plan for our infrastructure and our utilities and so forth. Is there anything that we're missing, or is there something that we need, that we need to receive tonight, some kind of approval or anything, or we just continue on the path that we've got?
No, there's no other approvals needed yet until we have a preliminary plat from you.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. I just want to make sure, because some people or some communities we work with, do different things. And I just wanted to ask, because we are, as Nick said, we're very aggressively working toward this. And because Nick would like to have all of his approvals, if we can, in that, that by the April timeframe. So we'll be working very quickly. And Jay Lewis is probably online too. But I'm sitting here actually looking at my office. I'm looking at, one of the you guys have not seen it yet, Chad. You haven't, but one of the preliminary utility plans. So we're working on that as we speak. Pretty much.
And so that's the next step that we need. We need the preliminary plat showing the proposed subdivision of the property along with the utility plans so that we can start discussing that with the town officials and let their engineer look at it before we give any approvals to that preliminary plat. Provided that could be done in early March and just, see that plan in March, then by April, you should be able to get preliminary approval if everything were to work out and the town be satisfied with what you're proposing. That would allow you to go ahead and start construction of it. You could bond the utilities and the roadways if you chose to do so, if you were wanting to sell lots and come up with a final plat, or you could just proceed to do construction, do the final plat when it's complete. I mean, you've got a couple of options there.
Okay, exactly. All right. Well, very good. Well, I think you'll see something again more sooner than later. It may, be toward the first part of March, but we'll continue to work through this stuff. As a matter of fact, Nick has not seen this utility layout that Jay and I've been working on, but we'll be getting that probably over to Nick. We'll send him over a copy tomorrow. So I'm sure Nick's still online, but he hasn't seen it yet either. So.
Well, if that's all for these gentlemen, then we'll wait to hear more information from you and look forward to that.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Mrs. Kaywood, thank you so much. And we will, I'll be signing off here unless there's any other questions, and we'll get back to work on our computers.
Yep, same here. Thank y'all for your time. And then if you need anything in the meantime, Brenda, everybody has our information. So anything pops up, just reach out, email, phone call. It'll be easy to get a hold of. So thanks again. Have a good night.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Well, it looks like the next item is any old business. Is there anything else? Any old business we need to talk about? If not, then I guess we have some new business. The townhome regulation discussion that we're going to email this week. Does anybody have comments or questions about this, about the proposed or the examples of the townhouse regulations that we might need to put in place?
So Sarah, could you go over that with them a little bit about what we discussed and why we were looking at actually maybe adopting some townhouse regulations and how that would benefit the town?
Yeah, so I kind of went through your guys' ordinance and just looked through to see how other things were put in. And I referenced, let me share my screen real quick. I referenced how the bed and breakfast was added to the ordinance a while back. So they just kind of made their own standards for it. So I think that would be something that would be beneficial for the townhomes if that's something that does keep popping up in Spring City. So they kind of go over just details. So what I put on the document that I sent out to everyone is just like the parking, what we want to put for that. I know they talked about having the garages and everything like that. Do we want to maybe put something in for like street parking to either restrict it or to keep it and have that as an option? So it's just things like that. There's also the option of having like specific standards for starting the construction and the process for submitting documents for the townhomes and everything like that. But I think the biggest thing that we should address is the setbacks, because right now townhomes are a permitted use in R3, and then now they are use permitted on appeal in C4. So we have two different zoning districts that townhomes can be in. So I guess the decision I think we should make, or it doesn't have to be tonight, but something we really need to look at is what we want to do for setbacks for townhomes. Because now that we have them in two different zoning districts, do we want to just make a standard for townhomes, or do we just want to go by what district they're in? And then there's obviously some other stuff like the lot depth requirements, what we want for the units itself, as we talked earlier, a minimum square footage, a maximum square footage, and stuff like that. So I just kind of put together a little document that if anyone wanted to take notes on or just write their ideas on, I think it's laid out in a organized enough way for everyone to kind of understand. And if you had anything, you could put it on and send it in or something like that. But if anyone wants to discuss any of the items I put on there.
Sarah, could you put that section of the agenda up on the screen?
Oh, yeah.
Townhomes.
Yes.
Yeah, that one.
Sorry, my bad. Let me do it to 2 pages. There we go. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
one of my concerns is the square footage. 800 square footage is extremely small.
Mhm.
I was thinking more like we should be coming around somewhere around 1,600 square feet.
A lot of townhomes, we don't usually see them that size. Usually they're smaller, around maybe 800 to 1,000 square feet, maybe 1,200.
Is
It's
that
sort of what
both
you see.
floors?
Yes. Yeah, some are smaller. I mean, it really depends on what type of development they're putting in. You know, it's kind of market driven on the size of the townhome itself. But you know, the real issue that we need to drive home on this is what we heard tonight. You heard him mention townhomes, you mentioned condos. Everybody defines those differently, but from a townhouse perspective, that means you're subdividing property to go with a unit. So you put a property line right down between two units and you sell the front and the backyard that goes with it. You don't have that in your ordinance now. So currently the only thing you could do is condos. So I know you hear a lot of things like the River Landing condos or other things, you know, you hear about some townhouses in the community, but really they end up being condos because they're not selling property that goes with it. So that's something you don't have in your ordinance right now. And while we use the word townhouse, we don't actually provide any allowances to do a real townhouse where you'd sell the property with it. So that's kind of what we were looking at. And what Sarah put together for you there are just, you know, just some general things that we would need to look at incorporating it to your ordinance to allow those. Now, we have a lot more detailed ordinances we can share with you, you know, as far as what the minimum lot size would be, the minimum square footage of the units, how wide it has to be, how deep it has to be, how many parking spaces it has to require. That's what you'll typically find in a townhouse set of regulations.
And did I hear him mention for the townhomes, they could be 1, 2, or 3 bedroom? Did he say that? Talking about the that he didn't know if they would be 1, 2, or 3 bedrooms?
I don't think they fully decided on what they want to do yet.
Ed, from a standpoint as far as timing, I know that we would have to add this to an ordinance to include this, which takes 2 readings. And depending on their time frame on their side, obviously this would have to be in place either prior to their final plans, or could this be in conjunction with their final plans?
Well, Stephen, if I heard him correctly, I think they're only looking at either doing condos or turning them into apartments. So I think that's going to be on a single. I think what they'll do is put several lots like they have that are pretty good sized lots with several units on each one. And I think that's what they're proposing. I don't think they're actually planning to subdivide and make townhomes out of these. This is kind of a separate issue, but it came up because of the discussion we've had on this development.
Okay, so these examples that that Sarah put together for us, these are things we just need to think about, discuss further. It's just something at this point to give us some direction. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's kind of, I'm not saying like these things are required or like you need to have them in this, but it's definitely kind of a guide. And like Chad said, we do have other examples of other communities who already have townhomes in their ordinances and things like that. So we can also reference those. If you want, I can pull some of those up if you would like.
And a couple of good examples she could send you, City of Dayton, we have townhome regulations in place there. We've had several townhomes built. Ray County has some in place. Theirs are a little bit different because it's not under the zoning ordinance. We incorporate it into their subdivision regulations. But if you've heard about the area down near the golf course there in Dayton, there's a patio homes and townhomes both being built there under that set of regulations to give you an idea of what they would control. But when we do that, I mean, just like any new subdivision, you're still looking at the utilities, the street, but we take it a step further and we actually require them to show the proposed layout of the buildings and where the property line will lie. We require them to show the proposed parking because there's so many parking spaces required for each unit. And the way it's really supposed to work is they'll come to you with a preliminary plan showing you what the building layout will look like and where the property lines will be. Then, once they've gotten that preliminary approval, they'll actually proceed to construction. And at some point in time, when they have at least a common wall established between or between each of those units, they can have a surveyor come out, recertify that's where the property line lies, and then they can move forward with the final plat. So that's how you actually certify that the property line is actually on the dividing wall. Because a lot of times what happens, if they don't stake it out good, you may end up with a wall that's not where the original plan was supposed to be. So that's sort of how they work.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, Chad. We really need some drawings before we can make hardly any decisions, the way I look at it, because how can you make a decision if you don't know what you're talking about? And without the drawings, it's kind of difficult to make those kind of calls.
Yeah, well, in their case, I mean, we're not ready to make a call on any approvals for theirs because we've not actually seen any detailed drawings enough to know. We just kind of have a concept idea of what they want to do, and we know it's multifamily, but we haven't been able to verify setbacks necessarily for all of these. We don't know the building sizes. We don't know if there's room for parking and all of that. We just kind of know the general footprint of what's going to be multifamily. It's like on their development, the single family side of it, I don't really see any issues with that as long as they get the grade of the road correct and grade that hill down some to put the road in. But the multifamily side is the one we're concerned with. And we're wanting to look at stormwater plans, utility plans, road plans, the layout of the buildings, the size of the buildings, the parking. There's a lot of information we still need at this point before we can make any decisions on theirs. But just to make a clear delineation of what we're talking about, though, theirs is more going to be condos or apartments. What Sarah's talking about here is something really unrelated to this, but for down the road, if you do have developers who want to come in and actually look at doing real townhomes with property that goes with the units.
So, I mean, it does sound like we're just on hold until we get their drawings and their plans. Well, is there any other new business, or do we need to, it sounds like there's not much else we can talk about on this until we see something like Woody said, some plans or some drawings.
I have a question about this. My question is what is the current sewer tap for the city?
Not hearing anything.
What is the current price to connect to the sewer of Spring City?
Lee, I don't have the information in front of me, but I know that it was at $750, but I believe that's gone up in the last few months. I just don't have it in front of me.
Yeah.
Okay.
It did.
My next question is every lot and is every townhome, condo, whatever you want to call it, are they going to have to pay that?
Yes.
Okay. And also, is this going to be on a gravity-fed sewer, or is it going to be a pump?
Lee, we do not know yet because of the fact that we don't have their plans. That will be determined once we find out what more further into that process.
So that's a very big price difference depending on if it's a pump or gravity, correct?
No, the tap would be the same.
Okay, who has to buy the pump?
If it's a grinder pump, then it would be on their responsibility to buy it.
Do they understand that?
Yes, if they come in with their information, I mean, they'd have to come in and sign up for new service. But yes, anybody who asks us, we tell them that would be on their cost.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, so these townhomes are going to be built without a grinder pump, and then after the person buys the townhome, they have to put the grinder pump in.
Typically, what we've done in the past, Lee, is the developer will sometimes go ahead and pay that fee to get it connected, and then they would just get reimbursed whenever they sell the property.
Okay, understandable. So therefore, they as a developer need to know if they're going to be in gravity versus pump, because that's a very big price.
Right, and that's again, once we get their plans of what they're wanting to do for utility wise, we can see what volume that they're doing potentially, and we'll be able to make the determination to let them know what they're going to need to do, and then we can outline everything at that point.
Okay, I'm just making sure that they completely 120% crystal clear and understood that.
Yeah, a lot of times it's a combination of both. You'll gravity to a point and then have a common pump for a general area. You can't make that call till you see the drawings.
Understandable. I just want to make 100% crystal clear that the developer knew what the process, what 1 versus 2. You've answered my questions.
Okay. Anything else? Any other business or questions?
Yes, I have another new business. We are on new business, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I've been told to bring this to attention of closing an alley in between Church Street and Neal Street, the street directly behind the City Hall, in between New Beginnings Church and Janice Booker. And what do we have to do that?
I don't know. Who knows? Who on the call knows what to do?
I can jump in on that one. I talked to Brenda about this. We don't believe there to be any utilities. I don't know about any underground utilities, gas lines, water lines or whatnot, but I don't believe there are any utilities there. If that could be verified by the city and it's not being used for access, which it doesn't appear to be, the process would be that it comes before the planning commission on a recommendation as to whether or not to close the alley or keep it open. If there's no reason found to keep it open, such as utility easements or access, the planning commission would make a recommendation to the city commission to close the alley. It would go to the city commission with an ordinance, and what an ordinance typically says is the right of way is divided down the middle, and the property owners on either side are able to claim to the middle. So you pass it like a regular ordinance, it would have 2 readings. If that were to pass at the city level, what would happen then is the property owners would be responsible for getting a surveyor and a deed to come out and claim that part of the property and have it recorded. So it's no expense to the city.
And I'm pretty sure that Jason went out and checked the utilities on that. Do you remember if he did he say anything to you about that stuff?
I know he was looking at it, but I don't think he was looking at anything but city utilities. Obviously,
Right,
gas
city
lines or AT&T, they would have to do their own. But he was checking on that, and I'd have to confirm with him. But I do think that you're right that we didn't see any, but I will have to confirm that with him to make sure.
Well, what's the reason for wanting to close it? I'm just curious about.
For one, there's trees
Okay.
on the alleyway. They're close to the house.
Sort of drawn in on the map here so you can see it a little bit better. This is what we're talking about.
Hmm.
And so it actually involves what I didn't look at the property owners, but it actually involves 3 different properties here. This one where New Beginnings Church is, the Locke property, and let's see, and then this one, get off this thing here. This one belonging to, oh, it's also New Beginnings Church. It's just a separate parcel. So it's just those 2 owners.
Well, again, are they who's asking? Are the owners the one who's asking to close the alley?
Yes.
I mean, who's asking that we close it or that we?
My mother.
I'm sorry.
My mother.
Your mother. Okay.
And the reason being is there's trees in the alleyway that technically the city owns.
Okay.
So Lee, to answer your question, if the
So is the next step, someone's determining if there's any utilities there?
yes, once that's determined there isn't any, then it can come back to the planning commission and we can make a determination from there if it's in the town's best interest to close that right of way, which if there's no utilities there, I don't really see any reason why you couldn't do that.
Okay.
And Lee, one thing that I'm texting Jason now for our utilities, but you can easily just do a 811 call to get the rest of the utilities marked to see if there's anything there as well.
Yes, ma'am. Now, is this going to be on the next planning commission? Because I have spoke with the church and being cordial, and I just want to make sure. Of course, I need to find out. Try to get with somebody with them if they want to join the Zoom meeting and try to explain that to them. So I'm just trying to have my P's and Q's covered.
Yeah, Lee, it'd be good if you could reach out to them and let them know.
Yes, I already have. I just need to know and try to explain to them. Maybe I can go over there with them and we sit together. I need guidance.
Yeah, so
If
just
they
go ahead, Stephanie.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah, just go to them, let them know that, you all are making the request for your mother's property there to abandon that right of way. That would mean they would take in the other half of it, see that if they're interested in doing so, and then let them know that hopefully by the next planning commission, if they've got it ironed out on the utilities and you've called the 811 and determined nothing's there, then that's something we can discuss at the March planning commission.
Sounds good. I will speak with them Sunday.
Okay. On the agenda, it talks about the hearing of persons having business. Is there anyone here else on the phone who has business they want to discuss on the phone or online? Sounds like that's a no. My internet connection has been very unstable, so I don't know why, but I've missed some of the things, but I think I picked up enough to make some notes. But if there's nothing else, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and second to adjourn. So our next meeting will be March the 11th. When do you think we'll ever be able to meet in person?
It'll probably be next month unless the governor's executive order is extended, which we're not anticipating it to be at this time. The current order only goes through February the 27th, allowing electronic meetings.
Awesome.
Okay, curious. Okay, if that's it, thank you all.
Thank you. Signing off.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.